What kind of person calls a struggling family embarrassing just for trying to enjoy a meal? Russell Jamison leaned back in his office chair, rereading the financial reports. Something didn't feel right. Sales at Store 4, one of his 9 cafe locations, had been dipping for 3 months. Reviews were mixed, and a few customer complaints had been quietly buried by the district manager. He had bought the cafe chain 6 years ago, back when it was on the brink of collapse. Rebuilding it had been personal. His dad used to take him to a place like this, back when they could barely afford a grilled cheese. That memory never left him. But now, Russell was worried the mission had drifted. He rarely visited the cafes himself anymore. With 9 locations spread across 3 states, he relied on reports, numbers, and the occasional manager call. But Store 4, located in a small town outside Sacramento, was different. The reports felt off, like someone was covering up the truth. He decided to go undercover. He didn't want to just check the books, he needed to feel the place, smell the coffee, hear the way the servers talk to people. Russell had never met the staff at Store 4. He'd hired a district manager to handle the West region, and turnover had been high. No one there had ever seen his face. That made it easy. He shaved his beard, wore an old hoodie, swapped his usual boots for beat-up sneakers, and borrowed a pair of thick-rimmed glasses from his nephew. He looked nothing like the CEO of a cafe chain, more like a tired dad grabbing some breakfast. He walked into Store 4 on a Wednesday morning, just after 9. The place was half full, a couple of seniors sipping tea, a group of college kids by the window, and a mother with 2 small kids at a corner booth. The air smelled like burnt toast and cinnamon. The music playing was a little too loud, but the cafe looked clean. At first glance, nothing seemed wrong. "Hi there." A perky young woman smiled at him from behind the counter. "For here or to go?" "For here," Russell said, adjusting his glasses. "Just me." He ordered a black coffee and a breakfast sandwich, then sat at the table near the front, watching. A tall waiter with slicked back hair and a crisp apron seemed to be in charge. He was moving fast, but not in a friendly way, more like he was rushing people out. At one point, he walked by the mother in the corner booth. Russell noticed she looked uncomfortable. Her kids, probably around 5 and 7, were sharing one pancake plate and drinking water. The mother, thin and worn out, had nothing in front of her. The waiter leaned down and said something under his breath. Russell couldn't hear it clearly, but the woman's face flushed red. The kids looked confused. Russell kept watching. The waiter turned and walked by Russell's table, muttering, "Embarrassing. Don't show up at a cafe if you can't even buy your own damn food." Russell blinked. Had he heard that right? He got up and walked closer, pretending to refill his coffee. "You okay?" he asked the woman gently. She looked down quickly. "We're fine, thank you." The little boy looked up. "Mom said we could share pancakes. It's a special day." Russell smiled at the kid. "That's awesome, buddy." Then he turned slowly and looked at the waiter, who was now chatting with another employee, laughing. Russell sat back down, his stomach cold. That was it. That was the moment he knew something was broken here. He watched more carefully now. The young woman at the register, Olivia Emerson, according to her name tag, was the only one actually smiling at customers. She helped an elderly man to his seat, refilled his tea without being asked. She wiped every counter twice. Meanwhile, the tall waiter Brent was barking orders at the kitchen staff, rolling his eyes and barely hiding his hate for the job. Russell pulled out a small notebook and started writing. He stayed for another hour, saw Brent snap at a dishwasher, saw Olivia quietly cover a bill for a student who forgot his wallet, saw the manager, some guy named Jared, walk in, chat with Brent for 10 minutes, and leave without even looking at the customers. By the time Russell left, he had a list of names, behaviors, and questions. And one thing was clear. Store 4 wasn't just mismanaged, it was losing its soul. He walked out of the cafe, heart heavy, and sat in his car for a long moment before starting the engine. This wasn't going to be a quiet fix. Russell returned to Store 4 2 days later, this time in the afternoon. He wore the same clothes, same glasses, the same tired, quiet persona. The staff didn't recognize him. He'd timed his visit carefully, right before the shift change, when the morning and afternoon crews overlapped. That gave him the chance to observe the handoff and see who carried the real weight. It didn't take long to spot the imbalance. Olivia was still on shift. Her apron was damp. Her ponytail frizzed at the edges. She moved fast, clearing tables and taking orders while offering each customer a genuine greeting. She glanced at the line forming near the counter and called out, "Thank you all for your patience. I'll be right with you," before handing a plate to a customer with a quick apology for the wait. Brent, on the other hand, was leaning against the soda machine, scrolling on his phone. He didn't look up when a man in a wheelchair struggled to open the bathroom door. Russell did. He stepped in quietly and held the door without drawing attention. Brent looked up briefly, then went back to his phone. A few minutes later, a new server walked in, tall, buzz-cut, wearing an apron that looked too big for him. He scanned the room with a blank expression and walked straight to the back kitchen without greeting anyone. "Hey, Noah," Olivia said as he passed. "Could you help run food to table 12? They've been waiting a while." He glanced at her, shrugged, and kept walking. Russell watched her jaw tighten. She didn't argue. She just picked up the tray and handled it herself. He stepped in line with the other customers and waited. When he reached the counter, Olivia gave him a tired smile. "Back again?" she said. "Glad to see you." Russell returned the smile. "You're doing all this by yourself?" "We're short today," she said, lowering her voice. "Manager's supposed to be here in 15, but it's been more like 30. He ordered a sandwich and a tea and moved to a booth farther from the front, where he had a clearer view of the kitchen doorway. 10 minutes later, Jared finally arrived. He wore a branded polo and cargo pants and didn't acknowledge any customers. He walked straight to Brent, who greeted him with a handshake, then passed him something looked like a folded receipt or note. They stepped into the back, out of sight. A few minutes later, Jared returned. He tapped Olivia on the shoulder and motioned her toward the office. Russell leaned slightly in his seat. Olivia walked back out 5 minutes later, face pale. She returned to the counter and kept working, but her hands shook slightly as she loaded cups into the soda machine. Russell stood and walked to the counter. "You okay?" "I'm fine," she said quickly. He waited. She looked around, then leaned in. "He said someone's been complaining to corporate. Said if we don't tighten up, hours are going to get cut. Did you complain?" "No, I'm just trying to hold the place together." Brent passed behind them just then, brushing close. "Maybe if some people didn't try to run the place like a daycare, we wouldn't be in this mess." Olivia flinched but said nothing. Russell looked directly at Brent. "You say something?" Brent turned. "I said maybe people should stop acting like this is a charity." Russell lowered his voice. "And maybe you should learn how to talk to people." Brent stepped closer. "You got a problem, man?" Before Russell could respond, a small commotion broke out near the front. A young woman in a wheelchair was arguing with Noah, who had brought her the wrong order and then walked off without fixing it. "I asked for no bacon," she said, raising her voice. "I can't eat pork." Noah didn't even look at her. "It's not my job to redo food. Ask the girl at the counter." Russell stood up and moved toward them. "Hey, she's asking you to fix a mistake. Why don't you do your job?" Noah turned. "Who even are you?" "Someone who knows what respect looks like." Jared appeared at the doorway. "What's going on?" Russell walked past Noah and faced Jared directly. "You're the manager?" Jared crossed his arms. "Yeah. Why?" "Because your team is failing your customers and each other, and you're not doing a damn thing about it." Jared narrowed his eyes. "You think you can talk to me like that?" Russell reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his wallet. He removed a business card and handed it to Jared. Jared took one look at it and went pale. Russell Jamison, owner and CEO. The cafe went silent. "I've been here twice this week," Russell said, voice calm but firm. "I watched your lead server insult a family. I watched another ignore a disabled customer. I've seen one person, Olivia, carry this cafe on her back, while the rest of you treat this place like a joke." Brent laughed nervously. "Wait, come on. We didn't know who you—" "That's the point," Russell said. "You shouldn't need to know who someone is to treat them with basic decency." He turned to Jared. "You're done. Effective immediately." Jared opened his mouth, but Russell cut him off. "I don't want an explanation. I want you to leave. Right now." Jared looked around, stunned, then walked to the office, grabbed his backpack, and left without another word. Russell pointed to Brent and Noah. "You two, you're not welcome here anymore. Go." Brent stepped forward, trying to protest, but Russell didn't blink. You've had more than enough chances. Your behavior isn't just lazy, it's cruel. You're done. They hesitated, then walked out under the stunned gaze of the staff and customers. Russell turned to Olivia. You okay? She nodded slowly, still processing. Go take a break. You've earned it. She hesitated. There's no one to cover. I'll handle the register. She blinked. Seriously? Russell stepped behind the counter. Go. 10 minutes. Come back when you're ready. She walked toward the back, shoulders finally relaxing. Russell turned to the customers. Thanks for your patience, folks. We're short-staffed right now, but we're making some changes today, starting with respect. A few people clapped. Others nodded. He looked down at the register, rolled up his sleeves, and started taking orders. The cafe moved forward, slowly, with tension melting from the air one order at a time. Russell never planned to run the front line again. But, in that moment, he knew it was exactly where he needed to be. Russell stayed behind the counter until close. He rang up customers, wiped down surfaces, and restocked cups from the supply closet. The rhythm came back faster than he expected. Years ago, when he was just 21 and scraping together rent, this had been his world-early shifts, burning calves, and learning how to keep people coming back for more than just coffee. Now, watching Olivia return from her break and jump right back into helping a customer carry a tray to a table, he felt something shift, not just in the cafe, but in him. When the last table cleared and the front door was locked, only 3 people remained: Olivia, a soft-spoken dishwasher named Louise, who barely spoke English, and a prep cook in her 40s named Ramira, who had kept to herself all afternoon. Russell rolled down his sleeves and stepped into the dining area. Olivia was stacking chairs onto tables. Before we all head out, I need a few minutes, he said, keeping his tone even. Ramira paused mid-wipe, unsure whether to stay. Luis looked up from the mop bucket. Olivia moved beside them, arms crossed. Russell gestured for them to sit. I'm not here to give a lecture. I'm here because I learned more in one day working beside you than I've heard in a year of reports. Ramira remained standing. Are we in trouble? No, he said. If anything, I owe you an apology. Luis tilted his head, confused. Russell turned to him. ¿Hablas inglés un poco o prefieres español? Luis nodded. Poco inglés. Está bien, Russell replied. Voy a hablar despacio. Olivia glanced at him, surprised. I trusted people to lead this place the way I would have by example. That didn't happen. What I saw today wasn't just mismanagement, it was neglect, from me down. Ramira pulled out a chair slowly and sat. So what now? I'm not here to patch holes with promises. I'm here to rebuild this store from the floor up, starting with you. Luis looked down, unsure how to respond. Russell continued. You've all been working without enough hands. No backup, no support. That changes now. We're bringing in temporary staff tomorrow, from neighboring stores. That'll give us breathing room while we hire properly. Olivia leaned forward. How long until that happens? Depends on how fast we can find people who actually want to work and aren't here to coast. Ramira frowned. We've had people come and go. They either get scared off or decide they're too good for kitchen work. Then we train better, Russell said. And we screen harder. You deserve teammates, not liabilities. Luis raised his hand slightly. I can do more. No one asked me before. Russell turned toward him. What would you like to do? I cook good, but they say no room in kitchen. Ramira glanced over. He helped me last week when the other guy quit, chopped onions faster than I could keep up. Russell nodded. You're in the kitchen starting tomorrow. I'll work with our regional chef to get you proper training. Luis nodded slowly, eyes wide. Olivia tilted her head. What about hours? They cut mine last month without warning. That's over. From now on, you'll know your schedule a week ahead. No more last-minute changes, and no more covering for people who won't show up. Ramira looked down at her hands. You're saying the right things, but we've heard promises before. I'm not promising anything, Russell said. I'm committing. You'll see the difference. He stood and reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a small envelope. He handed it to Olivia. She opened it cautiously and saw a check inside. She froze. That's a bonus, he said. for holding this place together when no one else would. It's more than you make in a month, and it's the least I can do." Ramira looked over, startled. Russell pulled out 2 more envelopes and handed one to each of them. "Same goes for you 2. You've been invisible to management, but not to me." Luis held the envelope like it might disappear. Ramira let out a slow breath. "I've worked here 6 years. No one's ever done something like this." Russell glanced around the empty cafe. "Starting tomorrow, this place isn't going to run on fear or silence. It's going to run on pride." He paused. "But I can't fix everything from the top. I need someone who knows this store, knows the people, and can build a team the right way." He looked at Olivia. "I want you to manage store 4. She blinked. "I'll pay for training, raise your pay, give you full authority to hire and fire your own staff. You've already been doing the job. Now you'll have the title and the tools." She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." She laughed once, dry but genuine. "Yes." Ramira smiled quietly. Russell stepped back. "Go home, rest. We start rebuilding tomorrow." As they gathered their things, Olivia turned to him. "Are you going to be here?" "I'll be in the background, but if you ever need to reach me directly, my number's on the card I gave Jared." Ramira narrowed her eyes. "You gave him a card?" "Didn't want him to forget who he answered to." Luis chuckled, the first time Russell had heard him laugh. They left together, coats zipped, shoulders straighter. Russell stayed behind. He turned the lights off one by one, walked through the back kitchen, and stood for a while by the prep table, where a stack of clean plates waited for the morning crew. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt responsible, and more than that, he felt awake, whatever came next. He wasn't watching from a distance anymore, not here, not again. By the following Monday, the shift in store 4 was visible before anyone even stepped inside. Russell arrived just after dawn, wearing his usual boots and a plain button-down shirt, no disguise this time. The front windows had been washed, the faded flyers taken down. A new chalkboard sign outside read, "Fresh start, same heart." It wasn't flashy, but it said everything it needed to. Inside, Olivia was reviewing the staff schedule with Ramira at a side table. 2 new hires, both from nearby locations, were setting up the pastry case and wiping down the booths. Luis was in the back prepping onions and potatoes, humming quietly to himself. Russell stepped in and dropped a small box on the front counter. Olivia looked up. "Morning," she said, nodding once. Her posture wasn't tense anymore. She moved like someone who had finally been given permission to lead. Russell gestured to the box. "New name tags, custom engraved, no more handwritten stickers." Ramira raised an eyebrow. "We fancy now?" "Just accurate," he said. "This team earned the right to be seen." They kept the grand reopening quiet on purpose. No balloons, no press, just word of mouth. Let the regulars decide if the change was real. By 8, the first customer walked in, an older man with a slow limp and a thick canvas coat. He paused at the door like he expected someone to ignore him. Olivia greeted him before he reached the counter. "Morning, Mr. Denner. Your usual?" His eyes widened. "You remember? 2 eggs over easy, toast no butter, and that garden tea you like." He nodded slowly. And she waved him to his favorite seat near the window. One of the new hires brought his tea without being asked. By 9, 8 tables were full. People noticed the difference without needing it explained. Orders came out quicker. Servers checked in without hovering. The music was softer, the coffee stronger. Russell stood behind the counter for a few hours, shadowing Olivia. He didn't give instructions. He just watched how she delegated. When one of the new servers accidentally dropped a plate, she didn't panic. She helped clean it up, took the replacement order herself, and quietly told the server to slow down a little and breathe. At 10:30, a young woman with 2 children stepped in. Russell recognized her instantly. Same woman from the corner booth 5 days ago. She didn't see him right away. She hesitated near the door, clearly unsure if she was welcome. Olivia turned from the register. "Hey there, table for 3?" The woman nodded, eyes cautious. "We've got a cozy booth open by the front. Your little ones want crayons?" The younger child lit up. "Can I draw a pancake?" "Absolutely," said Olivia. "You want blueberry or chocolate chip?" The woman finally smiled. Chocolate, if that's okay? Coming right up. Russell watched the entire exchange from a few feet away. No one rushed them. No one judged the order. The kids split a plate again, and this time, the server brought them a free fruit bowl without saying a word. He waited until the woman was sipping her coffee before approaching. "I'm glad you came back," he said softly. She looked up, surprised. "You were here last week," she said. "You helped us." He nodded once. "This cafe's under new management now, the kind it always should have had." She watched her kids for a moment. "It feels different." "It is." She hesitated. "I didn't complain to corporate or anything." "You didn't have to. The way you were treated, it spoke for itself." She gave a quiet nod of thanks, then turned her attention back to her children as they argued over whose pancake drawing was better. By noon, the cafe was steady, not slammed, but busy enough to stretch the new hires. Louis stepped out from the kitchen, apron flecked with flour. He approached Russell at the corner of the counter. "I want to show you something." Russell followed him into the back. On the prep table, Luis had laid out tomorrow's breakfast special, a roasted veggie frittata with fresh herbs, diced sweet potato, and a house-made salsa. "I make this at home," Luis said. "Ramira say we try it." Russell picked up a fork and tried a bite. It was sharp, warm, balanced. "You put this on the menu, people are going to ask for it by name." Luis beamed, then quickly wiped his hands on his apron. "You'll need a recipe card," Russell said, "and we'll need pictures. I'll have the marketing team schedule a shoot. We'll list it under your name." Luis blinked. "My name? You created it." Luis nodded once, then turned back to the prep sink, shoulders straighter. By mid-afternoon, the team took turns stepping out back for quick breaks. Olivia stayed behind the counter the whole time, but Russell insisted she take 5. She leaned against the alley wall, sipping orange water from a mason jar. He stepped out beside her, leaning against the opposite wall. "How's it feel?" "I keep waiting for someone to say it's temporary," she said. "Like it's a phase and we'll go back to how it was." "It's not?" She looked him in the eye. "You sure about that?" "If it slips, it's on me. But this time, I'll know. I'll be here." She studied him for a beat. "Why us? You've got 9 stores. Why care about one cafe in a town most people drive past?" "Because this one reminded me why I started," he said, "and what I almost lost by stepping back too far." She nodded, then checked her watch and headed back in. By closing, the store was spotless. The new hires had held their own, and the regulars stayed longer than usual. A man working on a laptop left a handwritten note on his receipt. "This place feels like home again." Ramira read it aloud, then tucked it into the tip jar. Russell waited until the last staff member clocked out before speaking. "No closing meeting tonight," he said. "You've earned your evening." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "You're not doing a speech?" "Just one thing," he said. "There's a reason I didn't put out a press release or hang a banner. I wanted the change to speak for itself, and it did." He gestured around the room. "This is how it should have been all along." Ramira grabbed her coat. "You staying here the rest of the week?" "I'll be back, not every day, but when I do come in, it won't be as a mystery customer." Luis picked up his backpack. "You eat with us next time?" Russell smiled. "Yeah, I'd like that." As the staff filed out, the hum of the overhead lights faded into quiet. Russell stood alone for a moment, then turned off the last switch and stepped outside. The cafe behind him wasn't perfect. It still needed staff, still had shifts to fill, but the foundation was solid now, built on people who cared and led by someone who knew exactly what it had felt like to be dismissed. And from here on out, no one at Store 4 would be invisible again.